How's it going? Matt Johnson here, another episode of Deck Talk. Kicking off another season. Guess what? It's opener this Saturday. Yes, we're 2 days away from the Minnesota fishing opener where you can start to target walleyes, northern pike, have a blast doing it. Common question I'm getting asked right now is, Matt, what would you do on opener? With the conditions we've seen, obviously we had a semi-late ice out. What are some of the things you do to get on the water and actively catch fish and have a productive day? Well, looking at the forecast, it looks like it might hit mid-60s, at least in the immediate metro area. I'm not sure quite about the outstanding areas of Minnesota, but with that being said, you know what? I'm going to go out, I'm going to chase walleyes, try and catch some fish right away in the morning when the sun's coming up, maybe before the sun comes up, and then I might chase some pike throughout the day. I might chase some panfish. So how would I go about doing that? For starters, you want to be honest, one bait that I have a lot of confidence in, and it's just kind of a cast retrieve, you don't know what you're going to catch, do everything, is that salmon hornet. And that's something that I've been a big fan of in a lot of years, whether you're trolling it, whatever you're casting it. But for me, this time of year, I'm just taking a spinning rod. This isn't anything fancy. I'm taking a spinning rod, maybe a 6'6", 7-foot medium light to medium action type rod, relatively fast tip. And all I'm spooling it with is some 8-pound monofilament, and what I've used is that Vicious Ultimate Fishing line, just this 8-pound test. Comes in an easy dispenser to get it on there. You can do it in your living room, you can do it during work. If it's lunchtime, you want to quickly spool at some rods before you hit the water, you can do that pretty quickly. And I just go with the bright pattern, something kind of flashy, gaudy, in your face, get their attention early in the season. This happens just to be a size 4, so it's not a huge presentation. It's small, it's only 2 inches in basically length, 3 inches with the lip. And all you can do is you just go out there and cast this bait. Nothing fancy. You got a 2500 series Shimano reel on there, 8-pound monofilament. Get out there, cast this thing, whip it around. It'll go, roughly, between 6, 8, 10 foot on the cast, depending on how far you're casting. You can get a little lazy as the day goes on and troll this behind the boat. You just sit there and hold on to it as you troll, watch your rod tip. But with the weeds right now not being as high and as thick, you can kind of maneuver this bait a little more in some of the areas you want to fish. So that number 4 or number 5 salmon hornet, get out there, just cast it around. You don't know what you're going to catch early in the season. I've caught nice walleyes, I've caught big pike on that. You want to believe it or not, we catch some nice crappies on those hornets. So if you want just kind of an all-purpose bait, the salmon hornet's a good one to start with. Otherwise, next, as you know, jigging. Just taking a jig, and whether you want to do a live minnow, a chunk of nightcrawler, a leech, the water temps are still fairly cold, so I'd probably convince you, if you are going to do the live bait route, to get some minnows, whether they're fathead minnows, small sucker minnows, red tails, depends on what's available, shiners. Those are going to work very well on just a plain jig head. Nothing fancy. Another option that I've been using, and it's kind of a double secret for me, and it hasn't been one that I talk about a lot, but just that Mr. Twister offers a double split tail option. It's got basically 4 tentacles on the back end. It's basically used mostly as a trailer, whether it's going to be like a spoon type bait or whether it's going to be a jig or a spinner bait. But what I'm doing is I'm actually just taking that double split tail and I'm threading it on just like it was a standard twister tail, and I'm actually pitching that around for walleyes. Walleyes, pike, it's kind of got a bigger profile. It falls a little slower in the water, so if the fish are going to be a little more lethargic this time of year with the colder water temps, it's not as erratic and jumpy around, so it gets a little more wake in the water, falls slower. This bigger option, or the bigger tentacles, gives it a little bigger profile. I will use white. White is a better profile in the water too, especially if the water's stained or if you're going to fish low light periods for walleyes. So just pitching this around will catch you a lot of fish. If you want that confidence factor and you're not quite saying, hey, I'm ready to just commit to a plastic bait or artificials, you certainly can put a fathead minnow on that and jig that, but that'll catch you a lot of baits. It's not as typical. You're not going to see as many anglers fish this, but I can tell you what, I've caught a ton of big walleyes fishing this type of presentation. Kind of a gaudy tail, fish is slow, pitch that out there. You can use pretty much the same rod you were just doing with the salmon hornet. You can take that 8-pound monofilament, 6, 7 foot rod, medium light, medium action, and pitch that and do just fine. Of course, you got to have an arsenal of slip bobbers. That's kind of an easy way to get it done. So if you're going to have the opener with, let's say, grandpa or kids that have not fished as much or not as active, you definitely want to have some sort of slip bobber option. And what I do with slip bobbers, I typically use a smaller jig head or a plain hook than I'm accustomed to with vertical jigging. So I'll just use a plain jig head, whether it's a 32nd ounce. It might be a 16th ounce, depending on how heavy you want to get down there. And I'll tail hook a minnow, or I'll put a little piece of night crawler on there, or if the water temps are appropriate in the area, you might want to drop a leech down. And then what I might do to get that to the desired weight or action of the bobber, I will crimp on some split shot, whether it's 12 inches, 18 inches above that, and fish that as a slip bobber system. And with some of the light up options nowadays, you can turn little red lights on, green lights on, and you can see your float during the low light period. So, of course, jigging, slip bobbering, casting the crankbaits. We talked about some plastic options. Another thing, if you want to just go target pike, I'll tell you what, a lot of times on fishing opener, especially in Minnesota, I'm burning around for pike. It's a lot of fun. You can catch a ton of them. They're usually going to be feeding, so if the walleye bite's not hot and heavy, don't be afraid to switch gears and chase pike. And two methods I like to fish pike early on. Little spoons. This happens to be just a Mep Cyclops spoon. This works exceptionally well. It's kind of a bent. You can kind of see that curvature on there. It's got a great erratic wobble in the water. Again, bright colors with the contrast. Gold back, orange face happens to be the one I have in my hand with kind of an orange fire tigery pattern. And that's going to attract fish in an area. It's got a lot of vibration. Looks like a wounded minnow. It might look like a sunfish that got injured on the weed line. And I'm just basically getting my boat out in the deeper water, pitching up on the weed lines, letting it flutter down maybe 5, 6, 7 feet, and then I start to retrieve it in at kind of a medium pace. And I'll tell you what, if a pike's in the air, they're going to come by and smoke this spoon. It works very well. I've actually caught some walleyes on this too, but it is going to be more of your pike presentation. And of course, you can't go wrong with just like a Mep's Aglia spinner in a larger size, or some of the smaller marabou type spinner, inline spinners from Mep's are going to work very well too. Again, the weeds are not thick and heavy. There's not huge mats of milfoil out there yet, so you can get by with more of your treble action spoons. So those are going to work well. And then a push comes to shove. I'll tell you what, I've spent a lot of openers grabbing my panfish tackle. So I'm using small baits, catching bluegills, catching crappies. You know what? I want to put a bend in the rod. So if you're out there and you go, you know what? It's 10 o'clock. We haven't caught much. It's been a long day already. You know what? Turn to the panfish stuff. Give yourself a peace of mind. Build some confidence that the day can still be successful in terms of catching fish. And put on a little twister tail, whatever it might be, some of the micro options there from Mr. Twister. Catch some bluegills, catch some crappies, put a few crappies in the live well if you want to take them home for dinner. Build the confidence back up, then switch gears back over to walleyes and pike again. So those are some pretty simple options for catching more, a wide variety of species, and you can have some fun doing it with some action. Some cool things that are new as we're into the opening season. And I guess what, Father's Day is not too far around the corner. Kids are graduating from college. You might want to get some gifts for them. There's some very cost-effective sonar options on the market now. Vexilar came out with the sonar phone. You've probably seen it or read about it already, and it's very cool. There's a few options for how this works, or a few different applications. I'm holding the T-Pod right here. And yes, this is a castable sonar system. So basically, you're going to rig this T-Pod up much like a lure on a fishing rod. You're going to cast it out to where you want to see the depth. And whether it's a sonar or a smartphone, smart tablet, any of the above, it can be an Android system or an Apple system, and you can basically figure out what the depth is. If there's fish down there, it's pretty cool. So you can cast it out there right next to your bobber. So if you're going to be fishing walleyes with a cork or a slip bobber setup, you can cast this right next to your bobber, and you can watch on your phone or on your tablet and go, holy cow, there's a fish. It's showing up. Bang, bobber goes down. It's kind of fun. Fun for the kids. Again, something fun to play with. This is about 150 bucks. Very simple, easy to use. And then that same type of scenario for your smart tablet can be used in a mount system. This is the T-Box. So it actually has a transmitter system here. It's all Wi-Fi, and this will mount on hard mount like it would a transducer for, let's say, your Lowrance, Humminbird, Garmin, whatever you happen to be using there. This is a hard mount high-speed transducer, so you can run across the lake and use that sonar system. So now you're not spending $1,000 or even hundreds of dollars on a system for your boat. You can use your cell phone, you can use the tablet you already have at home that you share with your wife or your husband, and you can get out ice or fishing in the boat with that. Very, very simple. Comes with all the stuff you need to rig it on your boat. I'm going to have the T-Box rigged up on my boat this year. I've used it a few times. Pretty cool stuff. And the T-Pod's great to have in your pocket, backseat of your truck if you want to do shore fishing. So if it's open and you're not in the boat, I tell you what, T-Pod's very cool. You can be on shore, cast it out there. I guarantee you all your friends on shore are going to go, what the heck are you using there? You're going to be kind of the center of attention. It's kind of cool. So I can talk opening day a lot. I'm very excited, as you can tell. It's fishing season here in Minnesota. The ice came off late. We've only had ice-free lakes for just a few weeks in some parts of the extreme northern Minnesota. I'm sorry to say, but you got ice on your lake still. It's going to come off, I promise you. Don't get too depressed. But if you do get a chance to get out there this weekend, be respectful. It is fishing opener. You know, it's going to be kind of a chaotic zoo. We know that. But get out there, have fun, be mindful of others, catch some fish, share some stories with me. Please keep sending me the questions you want to have answered out here. Have fun, be safe. Matt Johnson with Deck Talk. Kick some butt on the water this weekend, and we'll see you in a couple weeks.